Hi, Westie family. This is Alex, your host of the Westies and Besties podcast. And as we all know, Westies are a stubborn little dog breed. So the question that keeps coming up and actually discussed from our audience is, can you train a Westie? So joining me today are two fantastic individuals, rising stars in the pet industry in the UK, Carolina and Lee. And I'll hand it off to those guys to give themselves a bit of an intro, a bit of their background, and then we'll crack on talking about how we can actually look at giving the best sort of instructions for your Westie to be not as cheeky and as disobedient as sometimes they can be, as we know. Great, guys. Thank you, firstly, for joining me today. Much appreciated. I'm really looking forward to this one. So, Carolina, without further ado, you've been in this field for pardon the pun, for some years now. So, if you could just tell us a bit about yourself and your experience and background.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on, first and foremost. Really appreciate it. It's lovely to be talking to the Westie family. So, yeah, my name's Carolina. I own Chewing with River. I'm a dog trainer and nutrition consultant, and I've been doing that for the last 5 or so years. So, yeah, I mean, just really excited to be here. I love and work with all breeds, but Westies do have a little special place in my heart since my mother-in-law used to breed them and has a couple of them now as well. So yeah, I'm excited for this conversation.
Awesome. That's brilliant. Fantastic. And Lee.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, mate. Super appreciate it. It's equally special to be online with both of you because I massively respect both of you. So yeah, thanks. Super appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Lee. I'm one of the guys that runs Play9. Always rep the brand. Are you repping your brand, Carolina? I can't see from there. Yeah, you are, mate. Yeah, nice. Oh, you got the Westies, but yeah, mate, come on, professionals, 100% professionals. Yeah, we invented a dog toy. For those of you that don't know, we have a bunch of happy Westie customers. So yeah, it'll be good to talk about that. And how we're sort of trying. Basically, you'll notice that I can't talk properly half the time, so stick with me. But yeah, we just want the world to be the best place possible for pooches. That's literally what we want: happy, healthy dogs. So that's our mission. If that helps.
Brilliant. That's great, guys. Great. So what we're looking to do then, if we can just dive in here a bit more. So let's start off. So from the start of a Westie's life, from a puppy, how important, Carolina, is it to actually train him to a sort of basic standard at least?
Yeah, so I'm definitely of the belief that training starts the moment that the dog is born. So honestly, finding a good breeder is probably half of your battle, or finding a really good rescue center that has had the time to like properly assess the dog and place the dog with the correct home. Genetics are huge. And so we do have to consider that. And also past history is huge. So whether we're training a younger or an older dog, we have to take those things into consideration. If we're talking about a puppy, you know, a lot of it tends to be focused around the obedience. So I want my dog to walk on a loose lead. I want my dog to recall really well. I want my dog to not eat my skirting boards. And I definitely agree that those are very important things. But I'm definitely a trainer that sits on the camp of building a really confident dog and a really healthy dog. So I think those things come from that kind of 3 to 14 week period is like one of the most crucial windows for socialization. So if you have a good breeder that is able to start that work early on and that exposure early on, that's going to set you, up for success really. Once you've got your dog around the kind of 8 to 12 weeks normally, you want to be able to carry that on, and you want to focus on confidence building. You want to focus on socialization. But I think very often people see socialization as I have to shove my puppy's face into everything and just, get them to interact with everything. Socialization doesn't have to be interaction. Socialization can be hearing things, seeing things from a distance, smelling things. So you don't necessarily have to have touch or direct contact involved. And from a confidence building perspective, I have a lot of puppy clients that are, for example, using the ruler. It's great for confidence building because he moves about, he knocks about, he makes a noise. encourages the problem-solving skills of the puppy. And so beyond the obedience, I think we need to look at how do we create a dog that is emotionally sound and very confident and very healthy.
Awesome, great. And Lee,
Thank
do you
you.
find
Check
there's
is in your face, Carolina, as well. Thank you.
do you find with your customers they have a lot of puppies? What's the sort of demographic of your audience?
No, really good question. I mean, to be completely honest, we didn't know what to expect because we're quite a new company. We've only been around like a year and a half, and we were kind of expecting, like, we created the Rulo for my own dog. He's a Rottweiler, so super clever, really highly trainable, but also can be kind of stubborn and a bit of a pain in the butt. But I love you very much. But yeah, we've got from like the smallest dogs up to the biggest dogs. I think our smallest dog is like a miniature, not teacup, but like miniature Pomeranian. I've seen videos playing with the Rulo right through up to like Great Danes and, you know, Leonbergers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of across the board, to be honest. And like Carolina said, it's interesting because people use it for different reasons. So we kind of completely honestly, we created the Rulo to keep my dog at bay while we're on video calls and we're doing our thing. You know, care about dogs, don't just want to ignore her, but want to make sure the training continues and that she's enriched and, you know, anything like that. So, but what we found since is we've had people, and it's just so cool, man. It's like we've had people get in contact with us where they're like, my dog eats too fast and, you know, the vet says they need to lose weight, so they're using it as a slow feeder, right up to things like we've had some proper like heart-melting stories where people have got like really serious illnesses and they can't take their dog out anymore, for instance. So then the dog's getting frustrated, you know, or the dog's ill and injured and in rehab or something like that. So it's really right across the board. If that answers your question, yeah, it's kind of mad.
Great, because that's very important, the mental stimulation side of things. Like you said, it could be unable to actually get out and exercise, like you said, just recovering from an operation or an injury. It's an important part of the mental development as well, from the puppies upwards. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like, I mean, I totally agree with you, mate. It's one of those things where it should start from the breeder. I think there's, you know, it's only my personal opinion, but there's so many people that go, I want this breed, and they don't check what the breed is like, the amount of time and attention and nurturing that breed needs. So we see it a lot, you know, without picking any breeds out, but there's certain breeds where people are like, I want that dog, it looks cute. And then they get that dog and go, oh my God, I can't deal with it. Like, what am I going to do? So I think I couldn't agree with you more, Carolina, like spending a decent, considerable amount of time, finding a really reputable trainer, or like you say, a nice rehoming shelter, actually making sure that you're compatible with the breed as much as the breed is compatible with you. So, you know, around your work schedule, do you have kids? Do you have other pets? Things like that. All of those things need to be taken into consideration. And I think it's super easy just to pick a dog breed that you like. For instance, I absolutely love Basset Hounds. I don't know why. I've just always loved Basset Hounds. And my missus is also a dog trainer. Was just like, no, like too stubborn, won't be able to train it. It's not for our household kind of thing. It's going to be a lot more work than you think it is, and it's going to be a lot harder for us to have our world around that kind of breed.
So you got a Rottweiler instead?
She did. She got a Rottweiler. She came home. This is a funny thing. She had a COVID happened and she had her enough is enough day, which I thought was such a beautiful thing. A lot of people had that when COVID hit, and they were like, you know what? I was doing something that I didn't enjoy. Life's really short. You know, what the hell am I doing? And she's always wanted to be a dog trainer, so she jumped into that. And she came home one day and said, yeah, cool, we're getting a Rottweiler. And I was like, okay, well, all right. But yeah, no, a wicked breed, like absolutely wicked breed. But obviously, because I'm so interested in training, I love dogs, always have done, and Hannah's a qualified dog trainer. So it, you know, that breed makes sense for us. But I've bumped into other people, especially at shows and stuff, where they might have a Rottie, and you can see that they can't control it. It's dangerous. It shouldn't be out. And then you hear and see these horror stories of dogs where they should be muzzle trained, for instance, and they're not because the pet parent doesn't realize that that's part of it. They just want a dog that looks hard, or, you know, however you want to put it. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I don't know your thoughts on that, Carolina, but
no, I think picking the right breed is absolutely a non-negotiable. I would say that probably a lot of the more, say, problematic cases that I take on are humans coming to me absolutely desperate because their dog is doing a behavior that is completely natural for their breed. So, relating it again back to the terriers, the dog is digging up the garden. Well, that's kind of what they were built for. So just helping people understand the needs of a breed and how to fulfill them in a way that is appropriate. And also, I wanted to pick on this point of stubbornness, because you both now said about dogs being stubborn, and I'm having none of this. Right?
Please don't enlighten me.
You're getting told, right? You're getting told.
No,
on a serious note, I think it's easy for us sometimes to place very human emotions on our canine partner. And what we need to sometimes kind of remember and bring ourselves back to is that dogs are really quite simple creatures, and they're super clever, they're super intelligent, and they have an ability to learn like it's nothing else. But they are also quite simple in the way that they do that learning and the way that motivates the behavior. And so instead of looking at a dog that is maybe not quite getting it and thinking, oh, you're just being stubborn, why don't we instead think, okay, maybe I'm not motivating you in the correct way. Maybe I'm not giving you the reward that is the most appropriate for the level of skill that I'm asking you to engage with. And so, yeah, I think kind of dispelling that myth of the stubbornness helps a lot. And I find that it helps my clients a lot when they understand the dog for a dog, rather than having all this, the dog is jealous, the dog is stubborn, the dog is this, the dog is that. They're just daft. They just don't want to do it. Actually, if we start dispelling all that, we gain a much better understanding of what our dog is like, what our dog likes, what motivates my dog. For a Westie, it might be super fun and motivating to just shred and destroy, to just get right in there and dig. If we can create those enriching opportunities, that's when we're going to see a reduction of the problematic behavior. That's when, instead of your garden being dug up, they're digging in the sandpit instead, because they've got somewhere to put all that. So instead of getting all pent up and frustrated and then trying to communicate, and the humans not being able to listen because we're not very well versed in canine body language, and then we get frustrated, the dog is frustrated, no one is having a good time. Actually just taking a step back and just thinking, okay, I'm trying to teach the dog to do X, Y, Z. I'm not getting anywhere. Like, how else can I do it?
I love that, mate. Every time I listen to you, I learn something, like every single time. Yeah, no, wicked advice, phenomenal.
So basically, they're actually telling us how they act, and we just need to interpret what they're actually telling us, basically. Yeah.
I don't have children, but a lot of my clients do, and a lot of previous colleagues have. So you hear a lot of stories about people talking about their kids, and they say, oh, their cries, if they're crying for food or because their nappy's full or whatever it might be. So the same way that we make the effort to learn our baby's cries, we need to put a little bit more effort and time into learning the communication that our dog is constantly communicating. And behavior is communication. There's no behavior that is naughty, that is stubborn, that is jealous. Behavior is just communication. Something is happening that maybe the dog doesn't like. The dog is maybe trying to do something and they can't. For example, before we started recording, I voice noted Lee and I said, I've just given River's my dog, I've just given River the rulo and she's kicked it under the plant pot. She can't get it out. So she barked because she couldn't get it out and she was asking for help. I could have easily just gone, oh, shut up. Leave me alone. I'm busy. I'm about to go record a podcast. No, she was just telling me I need a bit of help here. So if I had left it, she would probably still been barking now because she would have gotten so frustrated trying to get at this thing and not being able to. All I had to do was kick it from under the plant pot, and that was it. So,
Quick question. Do you find that with a lot of your training stuff, because one of the things that I had no idea about, I've always loved dogs, like literally, I love all animals, but I've got a special affinity with the little four-legged pooch. And I had no idea about dog body language. It was one of those things that until I started really sort of going down the rabbit holes, I've done the same with dog nutrition and things like that, where it's, I wouldn't change now. But initially I was like, oh, what, Hannah said, a tail wag doesn't just mean happy, or do you know what I mean? And then I started going down that kind of route. And then you can, like you say, you can tell so many things, and you're like, oh my God, yeah, you're just frustrated, or or I need to do this differently, or however it is. But do you find that with some of your clients or some people where that's a part that they haven't looked into or they haven't got, kind of thing?
Honestly, I would probably say the majority of my clients, when we first start working together. Oh, Alex, I love the mug. Very on brand.
Oh.
Oh.
Nice.
And it's coming up to Christmas. Yeah.
Love it. So I would say the majority of my clients, when we first start working together, there's a lot of this dispelling of myths. There's a lot of this understanding of the purpose of different training equipment. Perhaps they've used a trainer before they uses different techniques. Maybe they've used different equipment themselves on their own dog. A lot of misunderstanding of the dog and what the dog is trying to communicate. And I think at the root of it, again, is that constant of putting our own emotions onto a dog. We need to remember dogs don't really have, as clever and amazing as they are, they don't have a huge kind of mental capacity. So their like emotional range is nowhere near as complex as ours. A dog isn't really capable of feeling jealousy. What they might be able to feel is, I really want that thing and you've taken it away from me. So next time you try, I'm going to growl to tell you not to take it off. Does that make sense? So when you start thinking in those terms, it's just so much simpler. And once you can kind of have that conversation with clients and they go, oh, then they understand their dog better. Then they can get on board with the training plan better. Then they're much more observant. They understand what's going on and they can implement it. If we don't have the time to have those conversations, and sometimes they're hard because sometimes people will be dead set on the fact that their dog is an idiot or their dog can't learn, or if you don't fix my dog, I'm going to rehome them, So it's hard sometimes to have those conversations and to say to somebody in the nicest possible way, the dog is telling you everything that you need to know. You're just not listening. It's hard.
And also sometimes affecting behavior they could be in pain as well. Yeah. It's that they're trying to tell you, it could be that, it could be dysplasia, it could be a muscle issue, it could be an upset stomach, perhaps. That makes them narky. It's like human beings. If we're in a bit of pain, we do get a bit narky as well.
Yeah, and honestly, that's probably one of the conversations that I have the most, second to canine body language, is the conversation around pain. Particularly as I work with a lot of reactive dogs, a lot of reactivity, and a lot of the more kind of dangerous behavioral issues. So maybe where the dog is bitten or has warned, done a snap bite, resource guarding, reactivity to dogs or humans. Those are cases that I work a lot. And in the majority of those cases, there is a pain element. And it can be, that conversation, I would say, is probably even harder, actually. It's really hard to tell a guardian that their dog might be suffering and that they haven't noticed. Because that's basically what you're saying, right? And obviously you're saying it from a place of care because it's your responsibility as a professional to the welfare of that animal. But what the person is hearing is, how have I missed this? How did I not see it? How did I not believe you when you said that there was something wrong? Because you still have clients that will be very hesitant. Okay, I'll go to the vet then. And then they call me back and they say, we've had x-rays, the dog's got hip dysplasia, or the dog has got this and the dog's got that. So it's a really hard conversation to have, but it's absolutely needed. And I'm so glad that more trainers are kind of catching on to this and having more of those conversations. There's some amazing professionals out there doing incredible, pain advocacy around the dog world. And it's so needed. It's so needed because people just think, if the dog was in pain, they wouldn't run around, they wouldn't play, they wouldn't eat. No, look at people with chronic illness. No. They live full lives. They go to work. They do everything that they need to do, but they just do it whilst in constant pain.
Yeah, they're tough. Our dogs in general, aren't they? They just get on with stuff.
Yeah.
But
so again, some dogs are just really, really motivated. Like you put a collie that has been a working dog all their life, and they've got really severe hip dysplasia, they maybe to a point where they're struggling to get on and off the sofa, they're struggling to get up. You put them back in the field with the sheep and they will just pelt it, and they will do what they love doing because they will work through the pain because they're motivated to do it. So a dog running around, a dog playing, it doesn't mean that they're not in pain. So, particularly if your dog has developed a new behavior and it's something that is more recent, explore pain, speak to your vet professional, speak to, whoever your kind of canine team is, and explore that, because honestly, 99% of the time I've been right. Unfortunately, I wish I was wrong. But I've been right pretty much every time I've said to someone, your dog's in pain.
So that's a very good point. Sorry, Lee.
No, dude, I was just going to say, do Westies have any particular ailments, i.e., like Rottweilers, for instance, though hip dysplasia is quite high up the charts as far as they're going to get it. Do Westies have any particular kind of
physical things like hip dysplasia? Yeah.
They do as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Then they have like the Westie lung, then they have the Westie jaw, skin and coat issues predominantly, but is that attributed down to the diet that they're having? So who knows? But with white dog breeds, they're quite susceptible to skin allergies, that type of thing.
But what you've got to consider as well is not so much of sometimes they're more susceptible to it, is that they are often the more popular breeds, and as such they are bred more, and they are more poorly bred. So golden retrievers, which I have, you see a lot of golden retrievers with hip issues, with gut issues, skin issues. So a lot of things that basically relate to the gut. And a lot of the times it is that poor breeding that just continues because people think it's normal, because they see so many dogs already with those problems. So we're so used to seeing Westies with that kind of redness around the paws and around their beard and around their eyes. We think it's normal. That's not normal. That's a sign that the gut is poorly. So we've normalized health issues. And by normalizing them, it's allowed people to continue breeding those dogs, then creating more dogs with the same issues. It's like such a vicious cycle.
No, I definitely agree more. There's so many breeds now where there's just been some proper malpractice as far as it comes to breeding, and you just think, just because, again, it kind of boils back down to people actually researching the breed, what they're meant to be like, and does it fit into your life and things like that. I mean, I've read some terrible things about British bulldogs not being able to birth properly, for instance, because their heads have been over the years been bred so much bigger because it's attractive, or people want that kind of look. So a lot of them have to have, like a thingy pregnancy, and stuff like that. And it's just, and I think humans are good people 99 times out of 100. And if they actually knew what they were doing, I don't think most people pick a breed and go, I'm just going to have that breed, even though I know that it's maybe been bred poorly, or, there's been certain attributes bred into it. I don't think people would then go, I think they'd cut the trend there. But unfortunately, I don't think people know. They don't research as much as they potentially should to do the right thing by the canine.
And the breeders don't know either.
Yeah, true.
I remember when I chose River, we got her from a breeder. We got her as a puppy. Her mum had Eastie paws. I didn't know it was an issue then. This dog was health tested, PC registered, all the right things that you look for. And River now suffers with, a lot of East issues. But, I didn't know. The breeder didn't know. And this was a good breeder. I was on a waiting list for a year, So it's not even like I just went and got the first dog that became available on some Facebook marketplace. Do you know what I mean? It's just that normalization. I see that a lot. And I think because with the white dogs, as you were saying, Alex, you see it more. And because it's more obvious, because there's loads of dogs that are Eastie or have gut issues and skin disorders. You just don't see it as much. But with the white ones, it's right there staring at you. But people just get used to it. The same way that people get used to fat dogs. People see so many dogs that are overweight that they think that's how a dog should look. You see golden retrievers at Crufts, and the majority of them are overweight, unhealthily overweight. And they're the ones winning the awards. So, it's just become so normalized that people don't kind of stop to question it really. And I don't blame people. Like, you shouldn't need like an animal behavior degree or a nutrition degree or whatever else there is to have a dog and to give them a happy, healthy life. Like, it shouldn't be this hard.
Yeah, good point. I mean, when you're talking about overweight dogs winning awards at places like these big dog places, but they've been sponsored by kibble companies. Well, they supply 80% of the pet food market in the UK. 70 or 80% of dogs are obese. Okay. There's a bit of a synergy here, to be fair, But again, as I was a kid, when we had the Labrador, when we were growing up, we gave him pedigree chum. We gave him food that was advertised on the TV because these big companies had big advertising budgets and still do to this day. So if you're new to dogs, until you've done some in-depth research in regards to nutrition and raw and fresh and that type of diet, then of course, but it's all about educating the customers. And that's why people come to us, because we go to experts and ask them to contribute articles to the publication. Carolina, you're one. You're one of our newest panel of experts. Lee, the offer is there for you.
Mate,
it's a,
just real quick on the
it's
nutrition.
a big.
Oh no, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, sorry.
I've got a bit of latency on this side. I'm sorry if I keep talking over you. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, sorry, go on.
Oh, fair. No, I was just going to jump in on the nutrition thing. Is something I've noticed. So my dog's 4.5 now, and we sort of had the same thing. And when my missus was doing her sort of training behaviourist accreditations and stuff like that, neither of us knew too much about nutrition with dogs, and we've been on this long journey ourselves with our own nutrition because, as the old adage goes, it's kind of you are what you eat, and you need the right kind of fuel for your body. And I don't know why. Like, I'm pretty dumb most of the time, but I would have thought I'd have caught this. But I don't know why I didn't think about the same thing with the dog. And we went to a really reputable breeder, and she was amazing, absolutely amazing, ticked all the boxes that we were looking for. And she suggested us feeding the dog kibble. It was the Royal Canin stuff, the Rottweiler special. Do you know what I mean? And after about, I think the first 6 months to a year, Tuki, my dog, had ended up in the vets a couple of times. And I remember saying to the missus, I was just like, this can't be right. She shouldn't be going to the vet that often because we don't go to the doctor that often. Do you know what I mean? So we went down this massive rabbit hole of dog nutrition. And obviously, as you would expect, it's exactly the same as human nutrition and probably elephant nutrition and flying, like whatever. You are what you eat. So we had this thing where it's probably about 3 years ago now, a little bit longer maybe, where we switched her over to complete raw, like from our local butcher. It's actually a lot cheaper than most people think, like way, way cheaper, I think, to do that. Grass-fed, decent beef and decent chicken, stuff like that. We switched her over to non-tap water, and the reason I bring this up is that when we first started doing shows with Play9 about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and this came up in conversation, everyone laughed. They were like, you feed your dog Evian, your dog drinks Evian, or whatever. And it was really laughable. Now, interestingly enough, the last 3 shows I've been to this year where we've exhibited had those conversations come up all the time because people always say like, oh, what treats do you put in the rouleau? What food do you put in the rouleau? And then we start talking about nutrition and stuff. Do you know, no one's laughing anymore. It's such a beautiful thing. It's like people are genuinely jumping on that train and come and say, I want my dog to be happy and healthy and live as long as possible. Well, of course I need to make these things. And then lastly, and I'll stop waffling, but lastly, the whole thing about, oh, it's really expensive to feed raw. It's really expensive for your dog to go to the vet if they've got a serious disease. Like, that's really expensive. That's going to cost you thousands. What you can do is talk to your local butcher, which means you're shopping local as well, which is really, don't get me started on that, but really, really important. Use cash, shop local, really important. And then you go to your local butcher and you say, look, I want some food for my dog. What can you do for me? And they will talk to you. They're a small business. They're going to want to help you out. They want a local custom. And we get these things. They're about, so you can't see, my hands are off the screen. Oh, Jay, hi, about this talk. And they're like, it's grass-fed, raw. I normally go for the beef one. It cost me £2.50 and it lasts for 5 days. And we mix up some different vegetables and put them in there. My dog's coat, honestly, has never been so good. Her eyes sparkle. Like, she hasn't been to the vet in 3.5 years, not once. She's had no ailments, no nothing. And I wouldn't say it's all down to that, but a good 90% it would be, in my opinion. But yeah, sorry, rant over. I just feel very strongly about food. And I love food, food's good.
I think, Lee, you were saying, I wouldn't put it all down to nutrition, but actually about 70%, some people say 80%, of the immune system is in the gut.
Yeah.
So
100%.
if the dog's gut is healthy, then they have a much better chance of succeeding behaviorally as well. And so it's not just about the physical health outcomes, it's the mental health outcomes as well. So, we're talking about a stubborn Westie that won't do something in training. They don't care about the treats. They are really fussy eaters. So these could actually all be signs that Westie's got a really poorly gut, that they're having digestive issues that might have gone undiagnosed for years. I've had clients coming to me on the nutrition side of things that have had these issues for years, and they've been back and forth to the vets non-stop, and they just can't get out of that cycle. And so actually, probably a lot of kind of the happiness and the health of your dog probably is because of that healthy diet. But it's not just raw, right? Like raw is amazing. I feed raw myself. A lot of my clients use raw. There's lots of other options that can be very healthy and very well suited for different dogs. I think the thing that people need to kind of get to terms with is that, one, the things that you see on the shelf, even if they say on the package that they're amazing, they're incredible, they're, for the joints, for this, for that, they're not always the best. And also, your dog is an individual. Your dog has individual, unique needs that are maybe not the same as the previous dog that you had. Because often you will hear people say, well, my previous dog had this red stained food for years, and they lived very happily for 10 years. I was like, well, first things first, is that the standard that we're setting? We just want our dogs to live to 10? Like, my dog is 5 in January. I am not prepared to admit that's half of her life done with. I am not happy with that. That is not my goal. So first and foremost, let's challenge that. 10 is not enough. Dogs have it in them to live much longer lives. And we've seen that through history, and we've had plenty of examples of dogs living much longer lives. So that thing is first. And then secondly, your previous dog was your previous dog. This dog in front of you now is the dog in front of you now. What you need to do right now is for this dog in front of you. Not what you think you knew, not what the previous dog taught you. It's what this one is teaching you, what this one is telling you, what the needs of this one are. And that is really important from both a training and a nutrition perspective, because it can be really hard when people get very attached to the idea of the previous dog. That can be very challenging.
Each dog is an individual, really. Is an independent in it, really, to be fair. I mean, like, going back to the nutrition point, I mean, this comes up in conversations all the time, really, because it's true, and it has such a big effect on the amount of time the dogs are with us, the health and their happiness. And comfort as well. You don't want somebody, a dog, to be on a diet that's causing them pain and inflammation and everything else going on with it. But from the cost perspective, just putting an egg on their food, crumble up the eggshell as well. Make them some broccoli, make them some greens. These little things that don't cost a lot of money. You're talking pence on top of like a raw food or freshly made or freshly cooked. We were doing that with Buffy before he passed. She had stage 4 kidney failure. And honestly, we had about different portions and powders and broccoli and all sorts of like fresh ingredients. But he had more liquids and portions than Hogwarts. There was drops, and there was. I'll have to put the list up as well. It was just unbelievable, but it was all healthy stuff for him. At the start of his little life, he for the first 2 years, because we didn't know any different, he was on kibble, and I like to think I need to do some more research into this in regards to how important, when your vital organs are forming from a young age, how important is it to get them on the right diet that has the right nutriments and minerals for them to develop and form properly? So, because in later life, he suffered from that. We had him for 12 years, but when we got back from the Middle East about 9 years ago, we put him straight onto a raw diet. And the change, again, Lee, like you mentioned, the coat so shiny, the sparkle in the eyes is the first thing you notice. And it's almost instant, isn't it, compared to what the diet he was on before. So,
Well, you know what,
so
as well,
again,
like the thing that's super interesting to me is on top of that, which goes back to the training thing, and I think you touched on it earlier, C, is that there's some dogs, the reward is not enough for what you're potentially expecting of them. Do you know? So in a training case, I kind of think this sometimes, if I put myself back as being a kid, and I'm playing video games or something, and my parents want to get me off of the. God, it's probably a SNES back then. Jeez. Anyway, but and they're like, cool. Let me coax you with this singular peanut. I ain't doing nothing. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think that's that thing where it's you can work with your dog so much better if you're treating them how you would expect to be treated yourself. Good food, good diet, go for decent amounts of exercise. Do all the things that tick the boxes that make a happy human. It's kind of the same with the dog, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, true, because they're just a part of our lives, but we're their whole lives, aren't we?
Yeah. And that point about the rewards, like I talk about this so much with training, because sometimes people can be quite averse to the idea of using food in training. There's a lot of strong opinions. And sometimes people just worry, is my dog going to get fat? Is my dog only going to do things if you've got food in your hand? So you have to spend a lot of time kind of dispelling those kind of myths as well. But you're absolutely right. The level of the reward is very important. There's going to be things that your dog is able to do at home really well that they might not need a reward for if they've already learned those things. They might not be able to do them outside. And then you think, well, you do this at home all the time. Why can't you do it here? And sometimes it's just that the environment is too distracting, and maybe you haven't trained the dog enough in that particular environment, and that's okay, because you can do that. That's something that is easy to address. Sometimes it's just that you don't have the right reward. And sometimes people will say, oh yeah, I go out with treats, but they don't really care about the treats. And I said, okay, what treats are you using? Oh, just a handful of the food that they have at home. It's like, there we go. If it's the same stuff, it's probably not going to be that exciting. It's a bit like, you really want the Domino's pizza and your mom says you've got pizza in the freezer at home. I mean, so just to expand on Lee's peanuts analogy.
You said peanut there, right?
You are?
So you said peanut, correct? Sorry, that sounded off over here.
I said peanuts.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
For God's sake.
No, I hope it's not going to go down a slippery slope here, guys.
So yes, I think, looking at the rewards that you're using is really important. And, we were talking about mental stimulation earlier, and people often think mental stimulation and they see a puzzle toy. That's kind of the first thing that comes to mind, is a puzzle toy. We have to push the line a bit more, because puzzle toys are good. They do help problem solving, but they're also patterned. And once the dog figures out the pattern, they stop being as exciting. And that's why stuff like the ruler works so well, because there isn't really a pattern to it, because he moves so randomly.
Yeah, true.
I feel like I'm on an advert for a ruler. I just really love the product.
We have no prep before this, so I'm super appreciating it. You're a legend.
So we need to get a little bit more creative about how we fulfill the dogs from a nutritional standpoint, a physical health standpoint, and then a mental enrichment and kind of problem solving standpoint. So thinking a bit further, you don't have to go out and spend loads of money. You don't. Go and spend money on Lee's toy, obviously, but everything else. You probably have in your recycling bin right now all you need to give your dog a whale of a time for about half an hour to 45 minutes.
Agreed.
Particularly if you have a terrier, because you can get a big cardboard box, fill it up with loads of little boxes, treats hidden inside, let them dig those out, let them sniff those out. That is going to be so enriching for your dog. And if your dog is enriched, your dog is happier, your dog behaves better, and you can have your chill time watching your Netflix instead of thinking, oh my God, the dog's crawling up the walls again. you know?
Do you know one of my favorite things? I'm going to have to say it quietly because if I say it at normal volume, the pooch is going to run in because she's going to think. But find it. FINDIT. I love that, and you can just put them all around the garden, all around the house, like little treats everywhere, and then just go. And you've, like you say, and then pooches always just tuck it out afterwards. And you can see that sort of almost happy, like just lushness after doing an activity that's fun for them. They're using their scent.
I'm really tempted to say it really loudly now just to set her off.
Look, it's gonna ruin every conversation if you.
But you're right. And do you know what? What you've just said is a skill, or not so much a skill, an exercise that I do with reactive dogs a lot. And people are like, what do you mean I'm going to throw some treats on the floor and then the dog sniffs them out? Well, actually, sniffing is calming. So if the dog is nose down, sniffing along, and at the same time there's dogs going past, or there's maybe you're playing a playlist on your phone of the sounds of dogs barking, or even the sounds of fireworks because you're maybe doing a bit of desensitization work, whatever it is you're working on, that sniffing is generally going to be like a calming activity that is going to help the dog to self-regulate their adrenaline levels. And then what's going to happen is about 5 minutes after that sniffing activity, the dog is just going to be like, oh. And that's the power of fulfilling the dog. And then again, relate it back to the breed that you have. If we have, I don't know, like a Labrador, what is the first thing that a Labrador does when a visitor comes into the house? They go and find a toy. They carry the toy around in their mouth for the whole time the visitor is there, because that is so instinctual for them. What do you see staffies doing when they're puppies? They destroy the skirting boards. They chew everything that they can find, because that's the more instinctual thing for them, is to destroy stuff, is to shred stuff. The dug-up garden we've already talked about with the terriers. So understand the breed that you have and create those fulfillment opportunities. Because when you do those things, trust me, your training is going to become a lot of a hell easier. A lot easier. Like we don't really need to train dogs that much. If we fulfill their needs and if we meet their needs at where they are, you really don't have to do that much training.
That's a very good point
as well, with all the leaves on the floor as well. That for the F word game is double good. Just putting the treats in all the leaves. Have you tried that? I'm sure you have. Super enrichment.
It's a great time of year for it.
Yeah.
Like
really
the
good.
floor is your snuffle mat.
Yeah, 100%. The floor is your snuffle mat is a banging sentence. Love that.
Oh, I better go copyright it quick.
Yeah.
Because every different breed is hardwired to do a different task. So if you identify what that task is, what they're hardwired to do, and just give them that, then that makes sense. Yeah, that makes good sense. So you mentioned there, Carolina, regards to fireworks and desensitization, coming up to that sort of period now, that season. So can you give some tips on how that would actually work for a Westie and dogs?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on the history that the dog has. So if we're talking about an older dog that has maybe had a lot of experiences of being really stressed out and anxious because of fireworks or just general noise sensitivity, then you have to be a little bit more careful about the way you go about it, because they already have that kind of immediate ingrained response, right? So you're going to be kind of backtracking and trying to create an alternative response. Whereas if you're working with a younger dog that has maybe never had experience of fireworks at all, or just, again, general loud noises, you can do that habituation work from the get-go. So like something I did that I'm so glad I did with River when she was a puppy is when we were playing, when we were training, I would play different noises on my phone or my Alexa. So I would put, I don't know, babies crying, construction work, traffic noises, bin lorries, doorbells, door knocks, fireworks, everything I could possibly think of that could happen that I wouldn't have control over. Because that's the key, really. You don't have control over if there's construction next door. If the fireworks start going off, you can't lower the volume. You can't stop it. So you have to try to prepare your dog to be as okay as possible with those things happening. So just playing those noises on a low volume whilst you're doing stuff that the dog likes and enjoys, whilst they're doing a puzzle toy, whilst they're playing with a ruler, whilst they're training, whilst they're whatever, then you're kind of starting to create that association of, oh, okay, I don't have to be scared of these things because I've heard them loads whilst I've been doing enjoyable stuff. When you have a dog that just already has that negative association, then you need a little bit more of a careful plan, but it's still doable. And this is what I would really love to, like, if anything, take this away from today for the listeners is you can teach older dogs. You can change behavior from older dogs. Just because your dog is older doesn't mean they have to suffer for the rest of their life with whatever stress or anxieties they're currently experiencing.
Preach.
Yeah, right? Because you say, oh, they've always been like this. What's the point now? Well, the point is that the more stressed out your dog is, the shorter their life is going to be. Just like in humans, stress is a killer. If your dog is stressed out of their mind all of the time, every time they go for a walk, say they go for a walk twice a day, every single walk they react to dogs, they get really stressed out. You're doing that every single day of your dog's life, and your dog is now 6 years old. Think how many occasions of those negative experiences your dog has now had. And do you want them to really continue moving forward for however many walks they have left to feel that way?
So great. So
Absolutely
is this like you mentioned, having the background noise of construction sites and fireworks, etc.? Is that through all year round, or would it be more you'd rank that up 3-4 months before the season comes around, just for them to?
No, like so we're recording in November 2025. We've just had bonfire night last week. If you want your dog to be less stressed by next bonfire night, you start tomorrow.
Right. Go ahead.
Like, this isn't this particularly, again, for the dogs that have already got a history of like that negative association. This isn't an overnight thing. This isn't a quick fix. There's definitely things you can use, like on the supplementation side of things. So, for example, West do a lovely valerian drop product that is quite like a quick acting product. They have a builder product as well, which comes in tablet form. So those things you could start, a couple of months before. The drops you can do on the week of. So you've got that, but that's going to take the edge off. That's it. You have dogs that are heavily sedated with kind of veterinary medicines, and they're still stressed. And they're still, soiling themselves, shaking in the corner, hiding under the bed, even when they're heavily sedated. So you've got to prepare from tomorrow for next bonfire season. What you can do in the meantime, as we come up to New Year's Eve, etc., is what I just said. Play them on a low volume. If your dog is still happy, if they're still relaxed, if they're still engaging with the activity, slowly increase the volume of that playlist. But really, it's always hard giving this advice because all I think is people are not going to be able to read the dog. People are not going to know if the dog's still happy. So observe your dog closely. Don't get impatient and just go to full volume within a couple of sessions because you think it's okay. Really watch your dog really carefully. And again, what we said right at the beginning, look at what they're telling you. They will tell you if they're ready to move on to the next, volume up. They will tell you.
There's one thing that we did. We didn't do that, to be honest. But what we did on the a few days before is put some classical music on. Close all the curtains, all the windows, try and cocoon them into a space where it was more insulated, like the living room, for example. We turn the TV up louder than normal. Have his little nervous comfort little
bodysuit kind of thing.
Bodysuit, yeah, that's it. Yeah. But still, he was still shaking. So really, what we should be doing is just doing it year throughout the whole year, basically,
So
just on lower.
all the things that you've mentioned, Alex, is what we would call management. So when you're training, particularly on the behavioral side, which is what we're talking about, we think about management. So how can we prevent the dog from having a negative experience? How can we support the dog to cope as well as possible in a particular situation or environment that maybe we can't control? That's management. So that in and of itself doesn't teach the dog any alternative behavior. It just protects them as much. So it's a bit, management is a bit like, let's bubble wrap the dog a little bit whilst they're more fragile. So then when you're training that, so then you start peeling off the layers of bubble wrap because your dog becomes sturdy, they become more confident, they become more able to cope independently until you don't really need the bubble wrap anymore. So we always start with like a heavy management strategy and a smaller chunk of training. And then as the training progresses, the management becomes lesser. And that's the case for anything.
Yeah.
Noise sensitivity, dog reactivity, resource guarding, even puppy training, you have to think about management. But the goal is always to reduce the management. So, if you start doing the training tomorrow, maybe next bonfire night, you're not going to need the bodysuit and the loud music and the TVs and maybe you just need, I don't know, like a smaller space, a cozy space that the dog feels comfortable with. Maybe you will still need the music on, but you won't need everything else.
Got you. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Okay, that's fantastic. And they can always play with their favourite toy, like a Play 9, for example, as well. Yeah.
You guys are just so lush. So thank you. No, we did we did with Tuki. We did like from day dot. As soon as we got home, we did a sort of similar to like you're saying, just playing randomly, noises like construction workers, fireworks, things like that. And bless her, I don't know, it will be different for every dog kind of thing, but she's completely unfazed now. It doesn't matter what's going off where. And I think it is that classic thing, like you would with a kid or, anything that you care about, is the earlier that you can do it. Prevention's better than cure, right? So the earlier that you can do it and the more effort and time you can put in. I mean, personally, I feel like just in life in general, it's just you're constantly, or you should be constantly learning. And last year you should be like, oh my God, I can't believe that's where I need to keep learning. And it's the same with the dog and the body language. Has been such a massive thing for me personally to understand when my dog's happy, sad, in need of something. And if, to sort of coin your phrase earlier, if there was something that, from my point of view, to take away from this, it would be to spend as much time on that as possible, like really learning how your dog is trying to explain themselves to you, kind of thing. It's helped me no end. Like, it's the best thing.
That's great. Yeah, brilliant. I mean, we were the same with our the Westies. Well, there were certain looks that he would give you, and you'd know just by the way he was looking at you, or his little stance, or reading his body language. But there's a lot more of I could have learned and actually implemented that, particularly when it came to the fireworks season, rather than then just the management thing. So that's really interesting information. So thank you for that, Carolina. That's great. If we could just top on just quickly in regards to, there's a couple of things I want to cover here as well, just quickly, would be how do you, when a family come to you, Carolina, and say there's this issue with my dog, etc., how important is it that you educate the families, or particularly if they've got kids, on how they actually interact with their dog?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I ask before people even book is, will everyone in the home be involved in the training sessions? And if the person on the phone says, oh, it tends to be, I'm generalizing here, but it tends to be that it's the women that call me, that do the discovery calls. And then the most kind of common challenge to going ahead is the husband. So the first question I have to ask is, will everyone be involved in the sessions? And then they say, oh, my husband works away, or my husband isn't too eager on training, or whatever it might be. I have to say, right, we have to have everyone on the same page, because otherwise you're likely going to be wasting your money. Because what's the point of you paying me to come share my expertise with you if then your husband is going to take out the dog for a walk and not do any of the things that we've been putting into place. Because, and I use this analogy a lot of like the scales. So if you think about like the old school scales with the weights that you put on the plates, right? So particularly with behavioral challenges, so you have the heavier side is the side that the dog has rehearsed the most. And that could be barking, snarling, lunging towards other dogs. On this side is the amount of times the dog has been able to walk past another dog without being so stressed. So we need to start putting weight on this side so we start to balance things out. However, if one person is doing this work, but then the other person is doing this work, you're just never going to get to that point of balance. You're never going to hit that sweet spot, because this is where then the progress just happens. It just clicks. And the owners will say, oh my God, in the last week, it's literally just been like such an insane change. How has it happened so quickly? Well, it hasn't happened quickly. It's happened because you spent all this time building the foundations. And now your dog is finally at a point where they can think back to their history and go, oh yeah, I've had a few good interactions with dogs. Maybe dogs aren't that bad. But if you have one person doing the right thing and another one not, you're just never going to get that point. And then specifically with children, brings a whole different challenge, because you have, depending on the ages, obviously, like some children will be old enough to be able to understand things, to be able to learn about the dog body language. We have a lot of excellent resources that are very like picture based. So they're really good. Like if you have a good trainer, they can do these printouts and we can bring them and show your kids and be like, this is what the dog is telling you when they do this. And you don't grab the ears and you don't grab the tail and you don't do this and that. But particularly with the younger children, it can be really challenging because they just don't have the capacity to kind of understand and retain the information. And so we then kind of lies on the parents to keep an eye on their kid, and not let the kids do silly things. I always say becoming a dog trainer has completely ruined social media for me, because my partner will be able to sit next to me on the sofa scrolling on Facebook being like, oh, look at this cute video of a dog and a baby. And I'm like, oh my God, that baby's about to get bitten.
Yeah.
And he just says, oh my God, you're no fun. It's just a cute video. I was like, no, it's not cute though. You think it's cute because you're seeing a dog licking another a baby and you're thinking, oh, that's so sweet, the dog's giving kisses. Dogs don't kiss, humans do. So again, we're putting this human kind of assessment of human feelings onto the dog. If the dog is licking that baby, the likelihood is that dog is telling that baby, I need space, get away from me. So then if the adults don't read that and very quickly intervene in those situations, that's where the babies get bitten out of the blue. Because let me tell you, it's rarely out of the blue. A dog will rarely bite out of the blue. Like there's only very specific situations where pain or like neurological problems are a problem. That's where out of the blue happens. Otherwise, there's been loads of communication. There's been like the whale eye, when they kind of almost give you the side eye, you can see a lot of the whites of their eye. That's a stress signal. Moving the face away, moving the body away, the tail is stiff, the body language is stiff. When they lick a lot, lip licking, that's another stress signal. So we have to have everyone involved, because everyone has to be responsible for watching those things and intervening on behalf of the members of the family that maybe can't. Whether it's from because of age or because of mobility or disability or whatever it might be. So everyone's got to be on board. Otherwise, it's a pretty pointless exercise.
Yeah.
That was such a long answer. I'm so sorry. I'm such a rambler, Jesus.
No, that was brilliant. Yeah, Lee, you're getting that's great advice, yeah?
Oh, mate, honestly, like I said right at the start of this, every time you speak, I learn something. It's awesome. Like, keep doing your thing. I mean, just to make that point, I know 100%, dude, like 100%. Like, just to make that point, though, it's honestly, it's ruined social media for me as well. And one of the worst bits, apart from the actual fact of what's happening is you'll see in the comments, like, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, surely there's a bunch of like decent dog trainers in the comments, and you get the odd one, and then everyone jumps on them, and they're like, oh, bloody dog police, like, and you're just like, oh my god, like, what's going on here? It's it's absolutely mad. Absolutely mad.
And also, just to top the topic of introducing a new dog to a bereaved dog who's just lost his other partner, if that makes sense. So there was 2 dogs, one passed away, one is grieving, and then thinking that you're doing the right thing, probably is, probably isn't, if you could tell me, Carolina, is introducing another dog to keep that other dog who's bereaving company. So how does that, do you get many customers, clients like that coming to you for advice?
For advice before they get the dog, no. For advice after, yes.
How does that normally pan out then?
So it tends to be we lost Buddy 6 months ago. We just can't, the house feels empty. We just can't be without a dog. So we've gone in and got this puppy, but we never had these issues with Buddy. Buddy was perfect. Buddy was an angel. Buddy never chewed things, never jumped up on people, never whatever. This has been so stressful. I can't, I just don't understand. Buddy wasn't like this. And that's the biggest issue. And that's what I would urge people to consider before they get another dog after losing one, is that you need a time and a space to grieve and to really let yourself feel that loss and let yourself process that loss. And then when you do make the decision to add another family member, you need to remember that dog is a new dog. That dog is going to be completely different from the dog that you lost. And as much as you will want and yearn for that dog to be all the good things that your previous dog was, there's a chance that that dog might never be able to do those things. Or it might just be harder work for that dog to be able to do those things. So normally when I get called in, it tends to be when the issues have already started developing and when there's this grief all over again. Because they wanted Buddy, but you can't. Yeah. You can't because Buddy's gone. So it's hard. It's really difficult. It's really difficult because from a personable perspective, you have to both help the client navigate the loss of the previous dog, but also navigate the grief of losing the dog they thought they were going to get. And that is really tricky. It's really tricky because by that point, normally they've already placed so much expectation on this tiny little bundle of joy, that it's hard to backtrack it. So I would just urge people to consider it carefully, make sure that you have gone through those stages of grief and you've been able to process that loss. And then just remind yourself that this dog is not the previous dog.
Mm-hmm. So that's when you lose one dog. So if you still got one dog left, one has passed away, but you introduce like a puppy or a rescue dog, there's going to be, from the dog's perspective, that's still there, that's still alive in the household. Is there friction there at first, or are they more accepting for the new coming in, or does that?
So do you mean that the family already have a existing dog and we're adding a new one? So we're going for one dog plus 2 dog household?
They had 2 dogs. One passed away, so they've got one dog remaining. And then they want to introduce a new dog into the family.
Yeah.
Not to replace the one, but to keep the existing dog company, if that makes sense.
The same thing still applies.
Yeah.
Because, there's always going to... After a dog is lost, the next one that comes along is always going to, most of the time, is going to have those expectations placed on them. So what I said previously, whether there was still another dog in the house or not, will still apply to a certain extent. The difficulty that you have then added on when there is another existing dog is that you maybe had a dog that was used to a specific routine. Maybe, you know, the dog that they lost was maybe older, so maybe didn't play much, kind of left them to it. Maybe they had a little bursts of play, but then they could stop and they could each go to their beds and sleep. All of a sudden, that dog is gone. The existing dog is grieving, and then a crazy new dog comes into play that is getting used to the routine. And this is like whether it's a puppy or a rescue or a rehome, whatever, you're still going to have that. You're going to have a dog that is coming in, that is completely new to that family, to that environment. They're going to struggle settling because that's just what happens. It's a big change going into a new house or being taken away from your litter. And that's going to be hard for the existing dog because the existing dog maybe now has a dog around them that is not as respectful of the boundaries, that hasn't got those social skills yet or just never learned them, that is maybe very insistent. Like say if it's a puppy and they're just going and going and be like, play with me, play with me, play with me, play with me, play. And this dog is like, God help us, like I'm not used to this. So you have to be careful in those introductions. You have to make sure that you're giving each dog the time and the space that they need and that you're fulfilling each dog separately. The worst thing anyone can do is expect a new dog to entertain your previous dog or to fix your previous dog's issues. And again, I've seen this. I have a client at the moment that had a dog that she's like a quiet dog, you know, she doesn't really play much. She's kind of, you know, she's kind of a lap dog, right? She's not that old, but she's just never been a big ball of energy. And they got a dog because they thought, oh, we'll get a puppy. The puppy will be playful and the puppy will make the older dog play. Do you want to guess what's happened and why I've been called in? The older dog is now snapping at the puppy because the puppy doesn't listen because it hasn't learned what they're meant to do. So now the older dog is stressed as hell and the puppy is like, you know, like, I don't know what to do. I'm just doing what's normal for me, but no one is teaching me otherwise. So I'm going to keep going. So the older dog is snapping, growling, has bitten this dog a couple of times. But the puppy is just, you know, they've not learned yet. They've not had enough of that experience to balance the scales. So you've got to be aware of that. It's rarely a good idea to get another dog if your existing dog has got any behavioral issues or if there's anything you are happy of, and you've got to think carefully. It's always going to be a huge change of dynamics.
Do you think that sometimes boils down to the human wanting what the human wants over what's best for the dog? You know?
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Why does an older dog that is really quiet and just loves to snuggle up and whatever, why does that dog need a ball of energy in the house? It's not to say that you shouldn't have another dog. Like there's loads of people that have multiple dogs in their home. That's fine. Just think about the reasoning for adding the next dog. You know, is it because you want the dog and you feel prepared and you've got the time and you've got the routine to be able to fulfill both dogs or the 3 dogs or the 4 dogs or 5, however many might be? Or is it because you think it's going to make your life easier because then you maybe don't have to walk the dog as much because they'll just play together instead? Because if it's the latter, don't bother. It's unfair. It's unfair. And this is the reason why I nearly 5 years of River's life and we go back and forth all the time. Do we get another dog? Do we get another dog? And I've said no each time because I know I don't have the time and the capacity for a multiple dog household. So, right. Of course, I'd love to have a puppy, especially now knowing what I know that I didn't know when I had River, the different things that I would do. Of course, I would love that experience, but I'm also self-employed. I'm working at all hours of the day. I'm in and out. I wouldn't be able to fulfill a puppy's life right now. And so I have to be honest about that fact, and I have to do what's right for the dog. And that's, you know, not getting one at the moment.
Very plain. But yeah, I mean, it's making that decision. Does it fit my life and my lifestyle right now, or does it not? Because you have to be fair to both. to yourselves and to the dog. So we've gone over that. That was, thank you very much for that, Carolina. That was great. On a more positive note, guys, I'm just going to wrap up by saying, Carolina, Lee, what is the best thing about what you do?
Well, after you, Billy.
No, Lee, you go first because I've been yapping about for hours.
Yeah, but you're yapping better than me. I appreciate it. It's just super interesting. You're so knowledgeable. I love that. Like, awesome job. Like I said, just keep doing your thing. But all right, I'll jump. Yeah, no, my favorite thing about so we haven't been in the pet industry for a long time. Like I said earlier, we're nearly 2 years old now. So this whole thing is very new, and I come from a completely different place. I was a touring musician back in the day, and ran an entertainment agency. So I've always loved dogs. I've always loved animals, but haven't been in this position before. And I've run businesses since I was about 18, 19, across the board with a bunch of different things. I've always liked to be, I'm just not very good at working for people. No one will put up with me for that long. But this is the first time ever I've known a business to pull instead of push. Normally you have to kind of get in front of people and be like, hey, we're over here, like come and use our service or our product or whatever it is. And with Playnine, it sounds soppy as hell, but life's short, right? Like I just genuinely, I think we've come up with a thing that's enriching. I don't mean enriching in the normal sort of dog sense, but just in a massive encompassing way. It's adding value to people's lives, and for not just the pet, but also for the pet parent as well, the family. There's just so many applications to the Rulo specifically that's allowing to do that. And so 100% my favorite thing is just hearing those stories back when we're not expecting them. And, and it's gone from getting one every month to one every week to now we get multiple a day. Like every single day, people being, oh my God, I've tried everything and this has changed my life. Or, like I said earlier, people that are ill or injured or they can't get out for whatever reason. Or it's just a blizzard or like it's too hot in the summer. The amount of God, it kills me. I don't want to go off on one, but you're seeing people walking their dogs in like 30-degree weather on the hard tarmac. Like just no, please stop. And then, people are using the Rulo to prevent that. Whereas there's other products and there's some amazing dog products out there. But for us, we kind of wanted something that wasn't hard plastic. It's not dangerous. There's not any choking hazards or things like that. It's quiet on hard floors and all those little things. But we also wanted something that we couldn't find anywhere else, where it recreates the hunt for the dog. Like you said, it's unpredictable. So where the closest thing we came to, and I won't mention the product just because I love it, it's a great product, but there was one product we came close to with Tuki, my dog, where it nearly ticked all the boxes and it was nearly unpredictable, but she's clever and she figured it out. And it got to the point where she'd just go cash out, jackpot, like every single time. And then she'd start getting frustrated with it, which is the last thing we want, because she knows how to get the treats out too quick. It was a slow feeder of toys. And then she got to the point where she's doing it too quickly. She's frustrated, blah. So a very long-winded answer to your question. My favorite thing about it is hearing these stories back that we're just not expecting. It's those little wins where people are like, yeah, this is. I work from home. This has changed how hard it is for me to take video calls. Would be on one side of it, right at the okay, that's just handy. Right up to like I say, we've had a few as well. And oh my God, that breaks my heart. But it's the senior dogs. It's the dogs where, especially when we do shows, and this will come up all the time. And I totally agree with you, 100%, Carolina. You can absolutely teach an old dog. You can always teach a dog. It doesn't matter what age they are. Dogs love training. They love to learn, and there's always a way. And we've had it quite a few times where people have come up with senior dogs and gone, and my dog doesn't play with toys anymore. We've tried everything, like we've done this. My dog hasn't played in ages. They get really frustrated if people come over the house. Christmas is impossible because, we've got large amounts of family that come around the house. He won't play with it. And as they're saying it, you look down and the dog's playing with the Rulo. And the thing that breaks me every time is they're never like, oh, what? Every single time it almost brings a tear to their eye, because they're like, I haven't seen my dog's tail happy wagging in so long. I haven't seen them play like that. And, and we've tried a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, long-winded answer to your question. That's my favorite thing. It's all those lovely stories from wonderful people and their pooches.
Brilliant. Carolina?
I think quite similar to Lee. For me, my favorite part about being a dog trainer and nutritionist is that I see the difference that the work makes to people's lives on a day-to-day basis. And, I don't want to say more importantly, but but sometimes it kind of feels bigger, is the fact that the difference that you're making to that dog's life and their well-being and their longevity. You know, for me to say that what I do is create happier, healthier dogs that live longer, like, I think that's pretty awesome. And so, yeah, that's my favorite part of the job.
Awesome. Very aligned. Yeah, absolutely.
What's your favorite
fantastic.
part,
So,
Big Al?
guys, I have to agree with you as well. It's just the feedback from our readers and our audience. Basically, it's like we had Sir Tony Robinson, the famous out of Baldrick, Blackadder.
Oh, mate, you know, I'll tell you. Yeah.
We interviewed and did a beautiful story about him going up and rescuing a Westie up at the RSPCA in Derby, and everything else, all the emotional side of it as well. And it was just absolutely fantastic. He wrote us a lovely letter and he posted it out to us saying, you know, thank you very much, etc., etc. The information that he posted on particular condition, when we spoke about the symptoms and the signs, etc., he noticed that in his own little Westie, and then he went to his vets and actually discussed with a bit of confidence, asking the right sort of questions, which then was determined that his Westie did have that condition, and then give them the right suitable management. So yeah, but that was just one of many, and it's so rewarding because you guys know what it's like working in a business. You have the ups, you have the downs, these bad days, good days, there's many hats to wear, and keeping that sort of the overall vision and mission statement just gets you through all that. But then when you actually start hearing it back from people that you've helped them and their dogs, it's so rewarding. It just motivates you.
It's one thing to kind of write down your mission statement, and that's one of the first things when you open a business, isn't it? You think about the name of the business, you think about your logo, you think about your mission statement. And it's one thing to write, you know, happier, healthier dogs that live longer lives. But then when you see it actually happening and you see the evidence, that is freaking awesome. Like, that is such a kick that is worth all the stress, all the crying, all the late nights, all the non-stop working over the weekends, everything else that comes with it. Because you know that you're genuinely making a difference, not to just a dog's life, but the family that is now able to keep that dog when they previously were thinking of rehoming them, or the dog that is now healthier when previously they were thinking they might have to be put down. Like that. No. At the core of it, like, that's the level that our work can get, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a driving force as well, isn't it? But it's just got feeling really good about ourselves. To be fair, I've got goosebumps actually, to be honest, because it's fantastic. No, it's great, guys. Again, thank you very much for taking the time to come on and having a chat. I've learned so much from both of you guys. And it's a pleasure having you guys on. I look forward to working with you guys again in the future. Maybe perhaps we bring you back in for a part 2, let's say. And there's so many other. You might have
to break this down into a few episodes, Alex, because we've been yapping for about 10,000 hours.
Yeah, maybe we could do the part 2 with this. But I think as an intro to you guys, we'll keep it at this length. But you're more than welcome to come on again. And, maybe answer some of the questions that our audience could have. And again, so Carolina, where can people find you?
So the best place to find me is Instagram. My handle is Chewing with River. And if you want to get in touch, you can do so on hello@chewingwithriver.com.
Fantastic. And Lee?
Yeah, cool. No, appreciate it. Thank you so much for having us. I really, really do appreciate it. So we are called Play9, PLAY 9, as in Play9 for your canine. You can find us all over the internet. Just type in Play9 or Rulo and we should come up. Just don't look at my personal Facebook about 6 years ago or before that. Just don't do that. You don't need to do that. Nobody needs to do that.
So everybody go and have a look at what he was up to 5-6 years ago on his Facebook page.
Put yourself in the foot there. That's the first thing I'm doing when we popped off.
Maybe we edit it out, maybe we don't. We'll see.
No, bless you guys.
Again, brilliant. Keep up the fantastic work, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us, Alex. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Take it easy.
Take care, guys. Hi, we hope you loved today's episode of the Westies and Besties podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment, and tune in for the next episode. Now, if you'd like to be a guest, please feel free to contact us on the details below, as we would be delighted to share your story and to meet your Westie.